The following is an excerpt from Adventures in Grey Polyester, Volume 1, Ignorance, Ineptitude, and Indecency Inside the World of Hotel Security. The excerpt is entitled, We're Staying in the Hotel. The lounge at the Art Evans was the bane of my existence on many a night. But on this particular night, it wasn't even meant to be my problem. I was working the main hotel with someone else covering the lounge. But upon my arrival, I found out who was working it, and I groaned. It was Rod. Now don't get me wrong, Rod was a real nice guy to hang with and talk with. And as long as the site was cushy with no real responsibility or chance of incident, then he was your guy all day. But the lounge was not that kind of detail. And I knew at some point I was going to end up involved. The wedding that was going on that night was a big ruckus event that let out at 23:30. At 2300, I finished my tour of the main hotel and went to check on Rod. He was doing fine, mostly because the lounge was still mostly empty. As I'm talking to him, one of the waitstaff approached. It was Sarah, who was very tiny and mousy. Honestly, if you told me she was 13, I would have had no trouble believing it. She said to me, "Are you working lounge tonight?" No. Rod stepped forward. "I am." She looked at him. Now, to paint the picture, Rod was 6 foot even and weighs 100 pounds at best. He also happened to be a balding 55-year-old man, and apparently the sight of him did not inspire confidence in her, as she promptly turned to me and said, "I've got 2 guys in there who shouldn't be allowed in the lounge." Poor Rod. I stepped into the role, though. Okay, who and why? There are 2 really big guys, like huge, and they are like really, really drunk. I looked past her to see a large man literally bouncing along the wall as he walked towards the men's room. I nodded towards him. "That one of them?" She looked and nodded. "Yep." "Okay, thanks for the heads up." She scurried away and Rod leaned in. "He's enormous." I chuckled. "Don't worry, I'll stay and help." I waited with Rod until the wedding let out, and when it did, I steeled myself, fully expecting this to go horribly wrong. I saw them coming, and the closer they got, the bigger they were. These guys were both at least 6'6", 6'7", and easily tipping the scales at 400 pounds. It looked like 2 drunk-as-hell Big Shows or King Kong Bundys walking at me. Now, to be clear, I'm not exactly a small man myself. I'm 5'10", and at this time I was tipping the scales at a not-so-trim 320. Warning, security work will make you fat if you're not careful. These guys made me look like Rey Mysterio by comparison. Once they got close, I stepped forward and held up my hand, off to the side almost as if I was going to swear on the Bible or something, and said, "Hold on, guys. You can't go in there." "Why?" the bigger one barked drunkenly. I swear I could have got a buzz off this dude's breath, but I continued. "Look, guys, you've already had quite a lot to drink, and I can't let you drink any more with the state you're in." The smaller guy, if you want to call him that, kind of leaned on his friend, and the big one said, "We're staying in the hotel." I quickly responded with, "Which is wonderful, because if you were leaving, I'd have safety concerns." They looked at me like I had spoken Chinese, and then said again, "But we're staying in the hotel." I think at this moment, a part of my hope for humanity died, but I responded as evenly as I could. "That's good. You should go to your rooms." The biggin looked pissed and opened his mouth. I cut him off. Look, bud, you've had too much. You ain't coming in here. His eyes narrowed, and the voice in my head said, here we go. But it didn't happen. The little giant tells the biggin, come on, let's go. And they walked away. Once they were out of sight, Rod rushes up to me. Holy crap, that was intense. I played it off like it was nothing. Nah, just a couple drunk dummies. I think you should be good the rest of the night. I gave him the old fist bump and walked away. As I walked by the front desk, Selma shot me the you good look. And I nodded and shot her the okay sign. This was back before some jackass decided that hand sign was racist. And I kept walking. Once alone and out of sight, I breathed. Because truth was, it hadn't been no big deal, and that shit could have got hairy in a hurry. I had no delusions at all about that. I continued my night as normal, but it wasn't over just yet. If memory serves, about a half hour went by before my radio lit up with Rod's voice. Ken, they're coming back! Ken, they're coming back! I rushed over just in time to see them walk into the lounge in their white t-shirts. So to make it clear, they went up to their rooms, changed their clothes, and came back down. Thinking what? Like they're gonna blend in? Like we're not going to recognize them as our angry, drunken giants because they changed out of their button-downs? But I digress. Rod didn't even try to stop them. He wasn't even at the lounge door. He was over at the front desk with Selma. I shot him an annoyed look and walked into the lounge. He followed me. The two biggins had made their way to the bar. I raised my hand and waved to the bartender. Got his attention. He looked at me and I pointed to them, and then I did the hand motion at my neck to communicate not to give them anything. So the bartender ignored them completely as they tried to get his attention. I stood behind them waiting. When they finally turned around and saw me, the smiles fell from their faces. But a smile formed on mine as I said, come on, guys. We talked about this. The biggin screamed so loud that everyone stopped and looked. We're staying in the hotel! I had officially had my fill. I heard you. The first dozen times, dipshit. But if I let you keep drinking and you pass out on the dance floor, how do we get you back to your room? Huh? I ain't carrying your big sloppy drunk ass. He looked so very confused, I almost felt bad for hollering at him. Almost. He opened his mouth to speak and I held up my hand, pointing towards the hotel rooms. I don't want to hear it. Carry your ass out of this bar and go sleep it the fuck off. The two of them left the bar and did not come back down. My nerves were pretty well shot after this, but I did my best not to let Rod or Selma know it. Once the lounge closed, I told Rod he could go, and I stepped back in to check on Mac, the bartender. One last time. He was an old guy from Queens, and he put a shot glass on the table and said, "What do you drink, kid?" I laughed. "Can't. I'm on duty and in uniform." He looked down his nose at me and said, "Fuck that shit, kid. You earned it tonight. Now pick or I'm gonna pick for you." I nodded. Whiskey. Mac proceeded to pour 2 shots of whiskey and raised his up. Salud. Salud, paisan.